Mitsuru versus Jona. Can he do it?
Jona is currently on a hot streak right now. He is completely controlling Kiyame's actions. There's the nice. Rwby was able to help him out. The extra Reaper.
Dude, it's all falling apart for Kiyame. He's not going to do a super here, but one more mix-up. Is he going to pop Resonance?
Oh,
no, but JC will take it. Jona is your CEOtaku BBTag champion.
The one JC that won the entire tournament. Kiame.
How many of those went blocked?
Yeah, almost every except for the last one.
Except for the one that really counted.
He got the tournament
off with JC. Is that some emotion coming out from Jona?
So much of it. He's so excited. He just won SCR 2018 on both BBTag and BBCF. Now he's also taken CEOtaku with both BBCF and BBTag.
Making a good argument for one, if not the best anime player in America, or possibly bigger region than that. Jona looking so strong.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Born Free here, and I'm here with Jona, who is an expert BBTag player, and you may recognize him from previous videos where he initially was helping me translate for, who was it?
It was for Bonchan. It was for Bonchan and Sako.
It was for Bonchan and Sako, two players that are very forgettable to me for some reason. I don't know why. That's kind of stupid, but yeah, SCR. And at that time, Jona won BBTag at SCR and BlazBlue Central Fiction, and then I guess half a month later or whatever it was, won both games again at CEOtaku. So obviously pretty good at those games. And we're mainly going to talk about BBTag. Jona is been in New York this weekend, visiting from California. Have you had fun? What have you been doing?
Oh, I've been having a great time. I've been hanging out with my friend. She also plays fighting games. Her name is Base. I've been hanging out with her for the past since I came here like Wednesday morning, somewhere around that. And then I've just been hanging out, eating food, playing games, stuff like that. I've just been hanging out mostly, and then seeing friends like all around New York. It's been a great time.
And of course, you've enjoyed the sun.
Oh, well, actually, not really. I've mostly been inside.
Yeah.
And hell, even that, like, even when I do go outside, like, the sun's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, it sucks. But it is New York. Soon there'll be snow, and that'll be kind of nice. All right, so when I first met you, I met you because you knew Julian, beautiful dude, and you said you would help translate. So let's start there. I just want to start with the Japanese. Like, you live in California, right? What's the deal? Did you grow up in America? Did you grow up in Japan? How did you learn Japanese? Like, give me the skinny on that.
So I more or less, I grew up in SoCal, specifically in like the Pasadena area. I grew up there, and I didn't grow up in Japan or anything. I've actually only been to Japan like twice. And the second time going for Evo Japan earlier this year. And I haven't, for learning Japanese, it was just a thing like, hey, for high school, you have to pick a language that you want to learn. And then I was just like, I want to learn Japanese because, I watched anime and I've played games that were Japanese and stuff like that. But it didn't offer it at my school, so I decided, hey, maybe I can take it at another school. And then my school said, okay. So I did, and that's what got me kind of learning it. And then, the rest was I kind of picked up more from watching anime and stuff like that. And then from I took it the next level was when I befriended Japanese BlazBlue players, and I talked with them, and I even translated for them when they all came for Evo 2015, I believe, when BlazBlue Central Fiction was like a main game there. And they all seemed to appreciate it. I mean, I was basically working like all weekend trying to translate for them, and it was a lot of work, but I had so much fun doing it, and my Japanese leveled up a lot since then. So, and now I'm about where I am right now. So I've just been, doing my usual thing and talking to my friends in Japan every once in a while, and that's how I've kind of kept it up.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. Tell me, fighting games. I'm not going to ask you about your gamertag because you're just Jona, right? And that's your name.
Yep. Nothing too fancy about that. I was just like, my whole reason for doing that is just like, I remember when first tournament I went to SCR like 20, oh god, was it like 2013, 14, somewhere around there? It's probably a little earlier, but they said like, all right, what's your gamer tag? And I was like, and I actually said like, wait a moment, and then I took a moment to think about it. What should my gamer tag be? And then I thought of, wait a minute, so if Justin Wong could do it, I could probably do it too. And then I said, you know what? I'll just enter as my name, and then I did. That's just and so Justin Wong's literally the reason for it.
So Jona it is. So how did you get into fighting games?
Well, so I was in a cafe one day with my family. I was like, must have been 11 or 10 years old, and I take out my phone, my flip phone, my Verizon flip phone. I'm bored as heck, and I look up games to play in the meantime while I'm bored, and all of a sudden I came across Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting, one of the first versions of Street Fighter 2, and I'm like, oh, this game looks cool. And then I buy it, and it was like, looking back on it, it was like terrible, right? Because it was on a flip phone, it was on a Verizon flip phone, but I loved it. I fell in love with it, and I had so much fun, and I ended up playing it so much. And then I eventually learned that it came to consoles in the anniversary collection for the PS2. It had Street Fighter 2, it had ST and in Third Strike, I believe. And I bought a PS2 just for that. And then that's when I really got to play, the actual games and not the flip phone version. But I did play the flip phone version for a good while because, I thought that was all I had. And I found it so much fun already. And then, I just went on from there.
So you stumbled across Street Fighter on a flip phone, and you were that in love with it that you bought a PS2 in order to play those games on the PS2, and you didn't even know that they existed as video games.
Yeah, that was how that happened. It was I remember randomly my dad just said, "Hey, these games, like, they're on like bigger things like PlayStation and arcades and stuff, you know that, right?" And I was like, no. And then that's how we ended up getting a PS2. And then I learned, like, because on a flip phone, you obviously, with 4 directions, you obviously can't do DP inputs on that thing. So like they oversimplified it. So that was where I learned, like, oh my god, this DP input is so hard. And I was just like, I remember being at that point like it was yesterday. My god, it was just like holding a PS2 controller and struggling out of DP and all that stuff. And like going.
But how did you? It's okay. So fine, right? You did this thing which was very much on your own. You found this thing on your phone, then you fell in love with it and got it on the PS2. But then how did you find a community? Did you decide to take the games more seriously? Like, how did you get from that to being in tournaments and winning BlazBlue, across both BlazBlues?
So for a long time, actually, not until I was like about 16 or more like 15, somewhere around there, is I just picked up different fighting games and I just training moded them. I didn't even like net play very much. I just played King of Fighters. I played Street Fighter 4. I played but just a bunch of fighting games, and of course BlazBlue, which I actually discovered that one because my uncle, he randomly went up to me and was just like, hey Jona, this game called BlazBlue? Yeah, he didn't know how to pronounce it back then. So it was just like, hey, this game called BlazBlue, it's really cool. I think you would really like it because it's really similar to Street Fighter and it's like anime games. I was like, really? An anime fighting game? I had no idea what Guilty Gear was, so I was just like, anime fighting game? Wow, that sounds like a dream come true. And then, of course, even like almost that same kind of joy I had when I found Street Fighter 2 for the first time. I played BlazBlue Calamity Trigger 2009. That was 9 years ago. So I was like 12 years old at the time, 12, 13, and I was just like, okay. Oh my god, I fell in love with it, and I continued playing them until about CS Extend, which is Continuum Shift Extend. It was like, I forgot the exact year when it came out, probably like 2011 or 12. And then I remember going out to my local for the first time because I actually didn't know those were a thing either. And then I was so nervous. I remember.
How did you find out about the local?
It was a Facebook. Yeah, my friend was. I went to an anime con, and then I remember they were just like, "Oh, you're pretty good. You should come to our locals." And I did. I looked up their Facebook group, and then I went. It was at Super Arcade, the old Super Arcade before they shut down. I mean, they reopened, but you know, they the original location in Walnut, and I went there, and I kind of got my I went there and played a bit, and I at least got known there, like, you know, as to who I was, but I didn't go to an event ever since until SCR of that I mentioned earlier when I was more like 15, 16. And that's when I actually went to a tournament, and then that was the first time I really went into the fighting game scene like that.
Okay. What was it you were enjoying about, because I think this is an interesting subject, and one that people have very fierce ideas about. This idea of, you know, playing fighting games on your own, potentially, whatever it may be, whether it be labbing, whether it be doing trials, whether it be story mode, whether it be arcade mode, whatever, right? And there's a lot of people, particularly in the FGC, who refuse to believe that people could ever be interested in fighting games other than competing against other people. So what was it that you were doing in that long period of time that fascinated you in particular?
So I just loved like feeling the game, like, you know, controlling the characters and really being involved with the games, like, you know, the stories and like the stories behind the characters and everything. It just fascinated me so much, and just learning more about the game and seeing different ways I can play the different games. One of the ways I knew these games can be played differently was a YouTuber named Gordeau. He was the YouTuber for BlazBlue for a long time, and because of him, you know, I learned that, oh my goodness, there's these amazing Japanese BlazBlue players, and I never knew high level for fighting games existed. And then that's when my world opened, and then that's when, like, I was okay with just training moding all day and just you know, just kind of just like enjoying the games for what they were, as video games. And I really, like, looking back on it, I still look back on it fondly. I didn't really find it monotonous or anything. I just played the games because I genuinely enjoyed the aspect of, you know, I'm playing the game, and, you know, I find it very fun.
So you there's a lot of people actually who do say that. It's particularly recently, a lot of players I spoke to at Red Bull Conquest had sort of said they really enjoy the challenge of can I do this or whatever, and labbing and finding new things. And I'm kind of the opposite, which is why I suck. Is all I want to do is play people over and over again, you know, and then sometimes beat them. But like when it comes to training room stuff, I'm a little bit like, I'm not terribly creative in terms of like what I'm trying to figure out, and it fascinates me, this idea that people can sit in the training room and find it enjoyable.
I guess what I found fun was just the different ways I can do combos, and like the different kind of, and like just fiddling around with the characters' movesets. I just found that so fascinating as a kid. And truth be told, I actually have a form of autism named called Aspergers. So it's actually one of the traits it has, is that it allows the people to like hyper focus is one of the main things that is associated with it. So whenever I find something I really like, I just constantly do it, and it doesn't, you know, it's just like I just keep on going, and I can do it for hours and hours on end. And, you know, that's just, especially back then, that was like one of the things that really attracted me the most, was just like going into training mode or doing story mode or doing anything with the game, that like whatever I could with the game at the time that I thought was possible.
Do you feel like that's that you look at the game differently than most people in that sense?
Like fighting games in general, right? Or
no, I mean, I've got a little brother who is actually autistic. He's very young, and when I brought him here, there's a video on Twitter where he actually spots things which I just wouldn't, and it was like his first minute of playing. You know, he's so young. And he's like, oh, you know, when you're blocking, you lose this gray life And I'm like, wait, you're looking at the grey life? And he's like, yeah, you lose the grey life, and it comes back slowly. I'm just like, what the? How did he spot that? So I was just wondering if you feel like, and you probably don't know the answer because you can only experience your own experience, but I'm sure you've been around other people who have a different experience. Do you feel like you see the game differently? You see these games differently? Do you break them down in your mind in a different way? I know this is a super hard question to answer, and you may not have an answer, but I'm just fascinated by that.
So honestly, I mean, I feel like I sometimes get that, like, just like, how do you interpret this situation, or like, how did you see that, like, just that interaction between those two players. And it's just that kind of thing where it's like, I just love fighting games so much. It's like a thing where like I'm exposed to them almost every day. Like, I watch them, even the ones I don't play. I love watching them, like, King of Fighters, Dragon Ball, or anything that's even old games, especially old games. I love watching old games, like even like old games like Mortal Kombat or like Street Fighter. I like sometimes just pick my game of the week and I just watch it. But anyway, like so I always get to see these different kinds of player interactions between all these people, and the player interaction aspect about fighting games always really fascinated me, especially after I learned about that, from training moding all that time when I didn't even think about that really as much. And then like now that I have, it's just like that was the thing that I really focused on wanting to understand and wanting to really internalize for myself. So I guess that's like when I look at fighting games, I mostly just like I look at what's happening, right? But like I always try to understand why all the decisions were made the way they were, and what like led to them. Like even if it was the wrong decision, like what prompted them to do that, or like what was the risk reward scenario of this specific moment, and just various instances of that where I just like focused on it. And I feel like a lot of people, like, that's just like something that they have to try to look for if they want to get better, because, you kind of have to, like, to understand the mentality. But for me, I enjoy it. I love, like, kind of inferring on why they did that and why they did this. And, I guess that way, I look differently at fighting games that way.
Okay, so the hyper focus turns into hyper thinking, if there is such a term. But like a lot of people, fighting game players, certainly good fighting game players, talk about they're thinking about it in the shower and whatever, and that's not how my brain works. But like scenarios and maybe this could work and that could work, and why do you do this and so on. That's super interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. All right, so then you started going to Super Arcade, which presumably just led to you sort of like taking these games seriously, leveling up, going to tournaments, and it becoming like part of your life.
Yeah, so I originally started my competitive career not in BlazBlue. It was in Persona 4 Arena. Okay. It was in the original Persona 4 Arena, and I remember after SCR, because when the first time I went to a meetup for BlazBlue, I was too anxious to go to more because I didn't feel like I had any friends there, and I just felt like I was just too nervous to go to more, in all honesty. But at SCR, in particular the team tournament, I did really well for the SoCal branch, and then they were just like, oh my goodness, like, you're awesome, like, you should come to more of our locals, please. And then, that's just like, it was kind of similar to that Anime Expo thing earlier that I've mentioned about how they wanted me to come out, but it was just kind of like, I didn't feel like I made friends with them at the time, but like at SCR, I feel like I made friends there. So I was just like, okay, I feel comfortable going to these events now. And, I have a lot of anxiety, the social anxiety. So like naturally it was just like, oh, well, now that I have friends there, I can comfortably go and have a good time. And I did. And then I believe it was called Rebel Up, the original local that I went. Yes, the original local that I went to, and it was like every 2 weeks or every week or something like that. And yeah, those were like the locals where I tried my best to like go at it and like practice. I remember I had a time where I would constantly get fourth place, and it was so frustrating for me. It was just like, because fourth place is like, that's just like, it's not a fun place to be in. It's just like, oh my goodness. But at the same time, it's like, there are 3 different people who placed higher than you, so there's a lot for you to learn. So that aspect about it, I look back and it's just like that was a good thing that I was exposed to all those things, and that I was able to overcome and like, you know, winning my first one, I was so happy, even though I like didn't really win that much at all. But I still remember that feeling, and I remember my stepdad was so proud, or my dad was so proud of me, just saying like, you know what, you should hang up that like the money you got, and I never did, but you know, it was just like something that, you know, I was very happy about, and I still remember it to this day.
Wow, that's amazing. Right, so when you were coming fourth and then you finally came first, did you have a specific new mindset or thought about how you were going to beat those 3 other players?
So, like, honestly, I feel like in that instance, I really didn't at the time, honestly. It was kind of just like a thing where, like, I just wanted to keep getting better, like, with, like, you know, with the characters I had and with the game. So it was a little different at the time. When I really started to delve into, like you know, trying to beat people was when I went to like major tournaments and stuff like that. That's when it like actually like went on to, you know, more onto just like, how do I beat this guy, or like how do I get better enough to like fight with this guy. That's when it really started to happen. I'd say like probably the following SCR is when I made my first top 8 at BlazBlue Corona Phantasma, and I got like 5th or 6th or something like that. So in all consideration, I did pretty well, but you know, that was definitely like, I wanted to do a lot better. So at that time, it was just like, I just really wanted to learn from my losses and tried my best to try to get better at winning in a tournament setting, not just like in the game, but like at a tournament setting as well. Because I was absolutely sure that I could perform well, but I didn't perform as well as I could, because, you know, I felt like I wasn't ready for like to play at my best at tournaments yet.
Okay, so it was you identified a number of different things, and you know, so for instance, I mean, what did you do? Like, did you, you know, in terms of like the people that you needed to beat, did you learn on the fly? Did you play them more? Did you watch their videos? Did you just learn more about the game, the character matchups? And then for the being able to play within a tournament setting, did you change the way that you approached playing in a tournament setting? Those are 2 questions, I guess, but like, what were the things that you identify? You told me what you identified, but how did you go about changing them?
So like the things that I went about was like in training mode, I would always like mainly more than the like I went onto the player later like as to that, but more than that I would identify like right now like my approach to tournaments is like I go and I see a bracket and I see the characters that I'm facing, and I go into training mode and I see all the things that I need to know about those characters. And that was the thing I did back then, and that was the thing I learned to do, and it still continues to this day, is just like really picking apart the characters that I'm about to fight. Like, since I have multiple characters in both games that I play for Central Fiction and Tag, that like, you know, which of these characters would be best for dealing with this situation, or what kind of block strings are they doing, what's their neutral approach, how can I best combat this with my character. And then after that, you know, I would watch like a match video of theirs or 2, but it's not really a heavy focus for me, because like I remember like about like not even that long ago, like 4 years ago, when I would like, you know, and I really wanted to beat this person, so I'd just look up videos, study up all their habits, and do something like that. And I felt like that didn't really work out too well for me, because I felt like, you know, when things didn't go according to my plan that I had in my head, that it would just all fall apart. And honestly, that was kind of when a real big change in my mindset happened, like an even bigger one. That's just like, you know, I just have to like, you know, rather than like trying to beat that individual, I just have to learn how to just be my best. And so that I can feel like I can learn the most that way. So like even if I lose, or especially when I lose, that I can like learn from it and really feel like I can improve from the experience in like the training room, outside the training room, and just continue progressing as a player from there.
Okay, so not too focused on them, not too obsessed about them, not too worried about them, more about yourself. and that's where you sort of change the focus a little bit. Would that be right to say?
Yes, that and their characters. I just wanted to make sure to do all I could in the game to maximize my advantage.
Okay, so maximizing is interesting because I watched one of the top 8s recently. It might have been SCR, and one of the commentators said that your opponent. Actually, I think your opponent was Kazunoko, right? In the winners and in grand finals. And I think at some point they had said that you are amazing. This is what they said, at least. Amazing at optimizing every single hit. Is that true? And if it's true, is that because of all the time you spend in the lab? Tell me.
So training mode, right? I've asked opponents earlier in that I love it, and it's actually just something I don't find to be a chore, because almost every day, I sometimes just go into training. I go into training mode very often when I'm bored, or when I'm I want to watch something like a documentary or like an anime episode or anything like that. I would always put on training mode in the background and actually play training mode while I'm watching. And it would usually get my muscle memory down really well. And I feel like that's why people say that about me, is just because my hit confirms, I know them because I literally do them until like subconsciously almost, because I'm watching something and doing it at the same time. But I just I don't do that because I just I want to get better or something like that, but I just I don't know, I want to keep my hands busy, I guess, and I want to I just find it fun to do it at the same time. It almost feels like I want to preoccupy myself almost while I'm watching something, and it makes it feel more fun to me in a sense. So, and then it ended up having the side effect of I just can confirm all my hits pretty well, and I have my combos down and stuff like that.
I know that. I know what you're getting at. I know that feeling. Does it feel calming as well?
Yes, absolutely. It feels very calming. It feels like it's a huge stress reliever for me. Just training moding and just doing things. It doesn't I rarely, when I do have an epiphany and go into training mode, that's nice and all, but just generally 90%, a good, I don't know, 60-70% of my training mode time is just I just want to be here just to be here and just to do things.
I know what you mean, because I think people do the same thing but with phones. I think that's a thing, you watch TV but you want to be doing something for, I don't know why, but that's just the way we are, and you want to be doing something, you want to be doing two things. Yeah, that's very interesting. So you basically have always got it going, the training mode going. You're watching your documentaries, your films, or whatever, and you're just muscle memory, and it comes. And therefore, optimization, every time you hit, you're never going to drop that combo.
I mean, of course, I obviously still drop things, but I've definitely had that happen way more than I can count. But at the same time, it's just something where, if I'm doing a combo or doing a block string or a setup, I don't want to think about it. I just want to do it. And I make sure that I internalize all the muscle memories in those sessions, just so I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to think, is this combo gonna drop? I'm gonna no, it will drop because I messed up earlier, or it won't drop because I know what I'm doing. I don't even have to look at my hands or even think about it to do it.
Well, that's a huge part of fighting games, right? Isn't it? It's once you get that down pat, you can move on to the more psychological elements, which is you and your opponent or whatever. So anyway, we've spent a good amount of time talking about your history, which I find very interesting, and you've been very open, which is awesome. But let's talk about the game. We can't, unfortunately, talk about both games because that never works. We're going to talk about one game. So we're going to talk about BBTag. Talk to me about that game. Is it a good game? Is it a fun game for you? I feel like there's a lot of, bizarrely, I feel like there's still a lot of mystery surrounding that game for a lot of people. They're not really sure. Some people say it's like Marvel, and other people say it's absolutely not, and it's trash. And the views are so extreme, which they always are in the FGC. But when a game like BBTag just comes out of nowhere, it's a little bit difficult to tell. I mean, what are your thoughts on that game?
Well, personally, I mean, like, I love BlazBlue, of course, so, like, naturally, I'll love this game. Well, that's not true. I definitely know a lot of BlazBlue players who don't really like this game very much, even though they love BlazBlue. And, like, for me, like, all the franchises, like Persona 4 Arena, Under Night In-Birth, and BlazBlue, of course, they've all mean a lot to me, so I was kind of, like, already set on playing this game before it even came out. And as it came out, and after like it hasn't really been that long since it's been released. I want to say it hasn't even been a full year yet.
No.
And it's been like, I personally I have a lot of fun playing this game. I really enjoy it, and I think it's a wild game. It's a game that's very similar. Like I think it's very similar to Marvel 3. And a lot of Marvel 3 players seem to think very similarly in that regard. In fact, there's other like Marvel 3 players. One in particular, Flux. Yeah, he's a very good BBTag player. I think he won DreamHack Austin or DreamHack Atlanta the other week, and he loves BBTag for it to be so similar to Marvel in the fact that you can express your creativity and you can win with different play styles. It doesn't funnel you into playing a certain way. It's very open ended and lets you come up with your own strategies, and it can all work. I mean, one thing, this game is very explosive. Like, people die very quickly, and things just happen. They can just happen. They're not necessarily, like, your fault almost sometimes, but some things can just go south really quickly, and it can be really sad for some people. But it's like, that's the reason why the game's primarily 3 out of 5 instead of 2 out of 3, just because, games are so quick. In fact, like, at Evo, it's funny, the DBFZ in top 8, right? There were like 55 Bardock level 3s in that top 8, I believe. Something crazy like that. And the BBTag Winners Finals was way shorter than all of those level 3s combined. In terms of total play time, the BBTag top 8 was shorter than that. So like they're like the Winners Finals or one of those, like one of the longer games that was shorter than all those level 3s combined. So
who the hell worked that out?
I don't remember their name, but I did see that statistic on Twitter and they compared it, and I was just like, wow. Yeah, these games end very quickly. Like, games can either, and honestly, even in high level play, sometimes games can take quite a while. Like, there's 180 seconds on the clock or something like that. And believe me, I don't actually know too off the top of my head, just because timeouts never happen. I've had like, I could count on one hand the amount of timeouts I've had in that game, and it's honestly kind of crazy how that game is. So it's a very, like, I definitely can see why this game isn't for everyone. It's very, like, it's explosiveness, and in the fact that, you might not like a game like that, or team games in general. So I can definitely understand why, people feel differently about it. But me personally, I love it so much. I have so much fun with it. And, training mode for me in that game is, like, it's so much fun, because there's just so many different things for me to do, different characters to play, different strategies to learn. So it never gets really that boring for me. So I love the game so much, and I just want to see more people play it and, play more people as a result.
So when you were at SCR, I want to talk about balance a little bit, right? Because, one of the things I've noticed, and you made a video about it, was Team Scythe, right? Which is Rwby and Gordeau, is that right? And I think SCR, you were playing that team, and Kazunoko was playing that team, and I'm not sure how many characters were released at the time, but there's 40 characters at the moment, and so like to come to, and combinations of teams is, I don't know how many that is, right, mathematically speaking, but for two players, top players, to end up with this team, in my head, I'm like, well, clearly that team must be broken, right? And you did a whole video, which is like 40 minutes long, I think, which you can find on YouTube, guys. I'll try and remember to leave a link below, which teaches people how to actually fight against that team, because a lot of people probably didn't understand the oppressiveness of it, as you've put it in the past. You have also mentioned that the game can be played in lots of different ways and lots of different styles, and I think in other tournaments people are playing a number of different characters. I mean, like, how is the balance? Like, is it possible to win with any team? Is there like a top 5 teams that everyone gravitates to? Like, tell me, like, what's the balance like?
So the balance is interesting. It's like, especially for a first iteration of the game, I think the balance is actually quite good, because tier list for this game, I made one recently actually on my Twitter, and it's together with Base, the person who I stayed with. So there's so many characters in the game, right? And there's a lot of different variables that go into character strength. And because of that, and because of the way this game is, and all the different kinds of like variables that present itself, almost every tier list I see looks different in some way, shape, or form. And it's not something I can really say for a lot of games, honestly. Like tier lists looking so different, like from each other, and that's because. And the good thing is, like, you know, in tier lists sometimes you'll see top tier characters, high tier characters, mid tier characters, low tier characters, etc. And you'll see that for a good majority of games, you'll see them pretty well balanced out. But for this game, there's a lot of really strong characters. Like, a lot of the characters occupy the S and the A range. Like, in fact, over half the cast occupy the S and the A range, somewhere around there.
Wow. Okay.
So, like, yeah, like, you'll see, like, like most tier lists, they'll have so many characters on that list. Like, maybe, like, even not, like, around half the characters. And then the other half are, like, the mid-tier characters. And then you have, like, four or three characters that are just like low tier, and you probably should not use them. But like for a character with that many characters, only having like 4 just terrible characters is definitely not like a bad thing. Especially since those 3 characters, like, you know, those few characters, like, you know, Yukiko, Kanji, Chie, etc. Like those characters, some people still play those characters like in Japan. Like in Japan, like people try to play all different kinds of combinations and things like that. And in fact, at ArcRevo, there was like, you know, the premier tournament in Japan, like the ArcRevo Japan qualifier. There was one player who made top 8, and his name was 24. Like literally, just that was his name, was 24, and he played Akihiko Hakumen. And Hakumen is not very good in this game. He's and also he's like very whatever. And Akihiko, he's strong, but he's not like, you know, fantastic or anything like that. And the two have zero synergy together, like absolutely zero synergy, other than they both do a lot of damage. Like that's literally it. Like their movesets don't work with each other. They don't really like help each other very much. And yet that person made top 8 and almost beat like the second place winner. He got like 4th or 5th, I believe. And he did really, really well for playing a really bad team, like on paper. So like I personally think that as long as you have a game plan in mind and like at least the right support character to like make that game plan work, or like the right combination to make that plan work, you can win. You just need to have the right... Yeah, you just have to have the right idea in mind, the right approach, and kind of just have the right team for it.
Okay. They had balanced it in September, right? I think when I looked at the patch list, it looked like they'd made a lot of mechanical changes and a number of changes to various characters. I wanted to ask you just generally, did you feel like their approach to the balanced patch was a good one? Were you happy with it?
It was a very, like, there were, like, a pretty decent amount of changes, but they didn't really amount to too much. It was mostly just, like, fine-tuning and things like that. But there were a lot of balance changes that were just like, okay, these are actual character changes that changed the characters, and quite a bit, actually. But, honestly, a lot of them were just, like, quality of life changes, and none of them, like, too game-impacting. One of them in particular was, like, an invul glitch. Like what people thought was a glitch. So like, you know, when someone calls their assist, they have the option of pressing the assist button and the tag button, and it'll leave that character on the screen for an amount of time. It's like an install. Yeah, it's called cross combo, and people thought that it was a glitch where if you did a special move in that state and you swap to the other person, that special move is invincible. Think of like roll canceling in CVS2, that kind of thing, to where it's just like, oh, this can't possibly be a thing. Well, that balance patch proved, no, we meant for this to be in the game. Like they didn't even address it. They just were like, no, this is supposed to be here. So that's what a lot of people were disappointed about. But fast forwarding to now, everyone seems to have accepted it and kind of it's not really that big of a deal. If anything, it kind of adds more to the cross combo system in general.
Okay.
Because then it's like you find the moves like, oh, which ones can abuse this or which ones can like, help this out. But a majority of the time, not many characters can even take advantage of that like function. I guess now it's not even a glitch anymore. It's just like, a part of the game. Not too many characters can take advantage of it too well outside of a few. And even then, like, it's not too hard to get around it with system mechanics like push blocking and bursting and things like that.
Got it. So what I do want to ask you about the game itself in terms of the future of the game, is there anything for other, this would be more specifically for other BBTag players out there, but is there anything that you would like to see change in the game?
Personally, I really like the game where it is right now. I think it's like really cool, and there's still a lot of things that are undiscovered about it. But I guess mostly I just want more characters. I want more characters, and I just want more characters and like that have various playstyles, because I want there to be more options for people. I want there to be more cool options to explore and cool options to see win in tournaments and things like that. Because honestly, that's what I'm most excited for in seeing in new characters, just new ways to play the game, or maybe new approaches to playing different styles in the game. Because like right now in the game, there's like, there's these kinds of play styles that you can play, but there's like a lot of them, right? There's a pretty decent amount of different types of teams and play styles you can play. But, only with, by adding more characters, you can help like approach these plans differently, which is like what I really like. I just want to see more characters and more creativity and more like ideas circling around. I think that's like one of my, like, that's the thing I want to see the most.
Okay. So I got loads of questions now in relation to characters and your teams. I guess the first thing to ask before we talk about the announcement at EVO, well, let me ask both questions. There was an announcement at EVO that another franchise will potentially be, well, obviously it's an announcement, so it must be true. Another franchise is going to join BBTag, right? And then my other question is, you've played all of these games, BlazBlue, Persona, I don't know, well, Rwby wasn't a game, but, so which franchise would you love to see join the game, and which extra characters from BlazBlue or Persona or what have you, Under Night, would you like to see join the game?
So first of all, about this franchise I want, there's so many. There's like honestly with the inclusion of Rwby, that's like they could just pick anything. I think they name dropped like Fate Stay Night, they name dropped Avatar The Last Airbender, and I was just like, whoa. And it's just like, and then like all these series like Nier or Senran Kagura was another one that I saw like looking around, and I'm a fan of that series, so honestly I would like to see that. But in terms of like what I want, I just, again, like I want whatever like most wild thing ArcSys can think about, like what wild cool thing, because I want to see just what they can do with it, because I already think their way of, because obviously they can't literally add the character as they were in the game that they were in into BBTag. They have to adjust them, only take specific moves and like put them into their pre-existing moveset. But like the way they've done that with the characters in the game so far, are like, I love it, because like they're really creative about kind of like, taking advantage of the fact that they can only have certain amount of moves, and I think they did that in a really cool way. In a way where it's like you can very much still see the depth in these characters and what they're supposed to be doing in their game plans. So I honestly want to see more characters from anything wild, anything like Fate or Senran Kagura or anything. But I mean, if I were to choose, I guess like it would probably have to be either Fate or Senran Kagura. Probably either of those two, I wouldn't really have to say, but I don't care. Whichever wild thing they can think of, I'm okay with. And as for characters that aren't in the game that I want in, I would say that I want Enkidu from Under Night in Birth. I think he's so cool. He's like one of the coolest characters in the game, and I really want to see how he looks like in BBTag. That and Kokonoi in BBC in BlazBlue, and who else was there in Persona 4?
Falconhine?
So I actually play Falconhine in Central Fiction, and honestly, a part of me doesn't really want him in, just because I like probably won't play him anyway, and he'll probably be way too different for me to be like excited about it, and yeah, I don't want to just feel weird. But I mean, if he is in the game, I'd probably feel like, you know, I'd have to play him almost, and at least try to find a way to use him. But if he did get out of the game, it's not like I would complain or anything, right?
Mai's in the game, right? And you play Mai in Central Fiction. You don't play her.
Yeah, I don't actually play her in Tag very much, just because I mean I just don't really like. She's actually technically better in Tag than she is in CF.
Ah.
She's actually like like a lot of people in Japan think she's S tier actually, and meanwhile in CF people generally think she's either mid tier, mid high tier, somewhere around there, at most high tier, but nothing like top tier or anything. I never heard of opinion like that. But like, despite that, I love her so much in Central Fiction that like I can't really enjoy playing her as much in Tag, even though she is better. Like, just she is just flat out better in Tag, but I still can't feel that way. So that's why I generally stick to the characters that I pick.
All right, so let's talk about the characters that you pick, because obviously SCR, you were playing Team Scythe. Is that still your main team? I think you have other teams. Mm-hmm. Tell me, if you have other teams, what teams do you play, and when do you play them?
So I have 4 teams. I think I have 4 or 5 teams. I honestly lose track sometimes. But like I feel like Team Scythe is like, you know, the team that I enter tournaments with, and honestly, but it's not like my main team anymore, because honestly, after SCR and CEOtaku, I wanted to play other teams just so I could understand the game better and kind of see what other approaches that can work for me. So the team that I've literally played since then, and I haven't really played much Team Scythe since then, by the way. I've played Yu Narukami and Hyde from Yu Narukami is from Persona, and Hyde is from Under Night in Birth, and I've been playing those two together for ever since. And I've been trying to make that team work. I love that team. It's so much fun. And honestly, it's to the point where I've actually found some matchups work better with that team than Team Scythe in matchups. So honestly, I'll try to dual main that team, or the 2 teams, and try to see which if I can play them both in tournament like that, which I have actually. I think several SoCal tournaments I played just Hyde and Narukami. So I've just been experimenting with that. It's been working out pretty well. And other than that, recently, like literally like 2 weeks ago, I've been trying to find a team for Akihiko, because he was my character in Persona 4 Arena. He's definitely my favorite character in Persona. But anyway, I paired him up with Carmine from Under Night in Birth, and that team's been working out really well, despite me only having played it for like 2-3 weeks. I've been playing it with a lot of people in New York, and it's been doing really well for itself. So I'm probably gonna end up trying to play that team in tournament sometime, because it's so much fun, and I love playing my my old main Aki, because he's so cool. I love him so much. So I really want to bring that back almost. So like hopefully I can get that team even better, to the point where I can feel comfortable playing that in a tournament setting. And then the last one is Ragna Jin, like the 2 main characters in BlazBlue. And that team's just mostly a fun team. I just enjoy playing them. It's really fun. And like, just playing those 2 characters from like the game I love is just like, it's just cool like that. And the rest are just teams that I just mess around with. They're not even real teams that I have. Like just characters that I know about, like Asriel, Gordeau, or like other teams like that. But those are like the main teams that I have right now. Like those 4, I'd say they're like the main teams I have right now.
Okay. Let's talk about the ArcRevo tour, because about 2 weeks ago, I went to the website and I found no information. And then I started to look around on forums and things, and people were like, it's already started, and nobody knew. And it was kind of a mess, to be perfectly honest. It seemed like it was a mess. I've had players confirm for me it was a complete mess. Now, you go on the website, suddenly it's looking more organized. Like there's actually a schedule, even though dates are TBC, and there's a lot of TBC in there. But 3 events have already happened, right? Which you weren't at. Have you looked at the schedule? Is your intention to try to be competitive in ArcRevo? Like, what are your thoughts?
I want to be I want to do my best for the ArcRevo tour. Can't really guarantee that I'll get in, but I'll try my best. But it's like I'll go to the tournaments that I can easily go to. If there's like a tournament in Europe, probably not gonna go to that because it's probably just not worth it, and I probably just won't be able to because of work and school. But with the ArcRevo tour, it's like TBC. That's actually been like an ongoing meme within the anime fighting game community, just because they keep saying that. But it's like with the ArcRevo tour, I want to do my best still and like try my best to get into the main event. But like I'll only be doing what's most accessible to me.
Okay. I think there's Texas Showdown. I think there's CEO. Frosty Faustings, I think, and I believe Evo. So maybe it's a little bit heavier on the North American side next year. So maybe there is an opportunity, because I was really surprised when I was like, 3 events have already happened. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. So there's gonna be a lot of US events for it. So that's when I'll get my opportunities to hopefully get in. And but yeah, 3 events have already happened, and I believe one was in Japan, another was in Singapore, and the last was
England.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It started in London. I think it started in England. I don't know that much.
Yeah, I know. That was yeah, so that's interesting. But at the very least, I feel like I'll attend the future events that I can. So hopefully it'll end up working out in that regard.
Good. Glad to hear it. Now let's talk about players, because this game is so new. There's a lot of events you haven't been able to attend. You certainly, I think, won the 2 biggest events that you've attended most recently, which is SCR and CEOtaku, and beat some notable players there. Which players are out there that you really want to beat in BBTag, and why not? Let's extend it to BlazBlue Central Fiction just for this question.
Okay, well, I've played a lot of people. Even in Japan, I've played a lot of different players. But I'd say another person who I'd want to play again is I haven't played Dora yet in this game.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't played Dora yet in this game. I haven't played Dora or in BBTag. I've played him in CF before.
Okay.
But I haven't played him in Tag. I haven't played I've played against Gordeau, the guy who won ArcRevo recently. But I feel like I haven't got I only played like a few games with him. Like 6 games we went even exactly, but like I felt like I wanted to play him more, so definitely want to play him more for sure. And Koji Cog, I haven't played him either.
Oh yes, Koji Cog, yeah.
Yes, he has a background in Street Fighter, so I'm sure.
No, I definitely heard of Koji Cog, and he got sponsored by Alcapra, I think, actually, a few times to come over and with his T-Hawk, and is considered a kind of crazy. At least in that game with that character. I don't know how he's considered in BBTag.
Yes, I know. So he's super strong. Like he's already qualified for the event already, and he got second at ArcRevo, so he's really, really good. Okay. And like he plays Team Grappler. He plays 2 grapplers, and it's actually one of the best teams in the game, which is funny actually, because grapplers are usually in all fighting games, not just anime games. Grapplers are usually very like weak or like very like whatever characters.
Yeah, they're not well rounded.
Yeah, like characters that take a lot of work to win with, especially in certain matchups. But in BBTag, those 2 grapplers are like when put together on a team are amazing. They are Tager from BlazBlue and Waldstein from Under Night Ember. Okay. And that's the team he plays, and he dominates with that team. It's very oppressive, but I definitely want to play him. and I want to play against a lot of, because there's so many people in Japan who play this game that I haven't had a chance to play with, like Tomorello, Noburoa. There's like the list goes on, and I just want to play. I just want to go to Japan and play all these people, you know. Or like,
you want to take their scalps.
yeah. Well, I want to try my best to see what I can do with them.
Okay, so players, talking of players in Japan or all over the world, just FGC fighting game players. It doesn't. It could be now. It could be in the past. It could be of all time. Do you have sort of favorite players that have inspired you or continue to inspire you, or you just enjoy watching at the moment?
There's since I've, you know, because I've said I watch fighting games like all the time. Like it's like there's just so many people that like I've just like held at a high ground, and I still consider that. But as of recently, and like honestly over the course of the past few years, like Sonic Fox is a big one.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like because me and him it's funny, we have the same birthday actually.
Oh, you do?
Yes, March 2nd. So like we're actually so I find common ground with him in that, you know, we've you know, he plays so many games at like the top level, and like he's like around my age. In fact, I think he is my age, or like 1 year younger. Like he's just like, you know, just watching him just do all these things is just so cool to me, and it's really something that I just seeing it and like thinking and like, you know. Yeah, you know, you can be at any age and do well in a game as long as you just put in the hard work and you have the skill set to do so. And I think he has like the talent and the hard work going for him, and it's really cool to see him doing that. And also I guess seeing like, you know, a lot of names like Tokido and Daigo and those guys, like all the top Street Fighter players. I've learned a lot about player interaction from those people. Like from watching them and watching their brilliant reads and their moments of just like, wow, I can't believe you thought about that in this particular moment. Like that's crazy how your mind can think that far ahead. But I'd say that, and for BlazBlue would be probably Fenrich.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, Fenrich. In fact, he even he's been playing Dragon Ball recently now.
Yeah.
And he's doing really well for himself, and I'm really happy to see that, because he's also young. He's also like 24, 23.
Oh, he is?
Okay. And he's so good. In fact, I think you interviewed him before, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and he's so humble and cool, and he's just like, he just wants to get better at games, and it's I find a lot of like, I relate to him a lot, because, you know, his upbringing was very similar to mine, and that he just loved training mode so much, and just would not stop. Yeah. Like just playing combos and doing things and like that. So I find a lot of common ground in that, and that he is just a brilliant player and a brilliant individual. Him and SKD as well.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so I found a lot of like inspiration from seeing these guys just doing like all these amazing things in game, and just seeing it, and it's just like. And SKD lives around here too, so he's like, and an American, because like in Japan, there's a lot of people to play with, so it's pretty easy to get good as long as you like put in the work and you like go out to things, right? But in America, even if you're like really good, right, or like even if you want to get really good, sometimes you don't always have the best options. You can either have net play, or like maybe you'll have a player around, but like really really strong players, it's pretty sparse here, so. Getting strong is definitely an upbringing, especially since BlazBlue is a pretty hard game. So it's kind of like it takes a lot of work already as it is, and the fact that you know, SKD like and Fenrich, they've done that almost on their own project. Mainly SKD, because, you know, he's from America, and so the fact that he's done this all on his own, basically like with the help of a few people, but like, you know. I just think it's amazing that he's gone this far, and he's able to fight people like Fenrich and things like that, and, you know, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, the Fenrich interview is interesting. He definitely talks about doing 8 to 9 hours of just execution and combos. Yeah. So he's definitely wildly into that, and is another player who just shows you what it takes in terms of work to be the best. Like I think the joke in Dragon Ball was that, or maybe in BlazBlue as well, is that he's just the execution king. Like he's not going to drop. The combo's not going to drop, basically. And SKD, have you had a little bit of a rivalry with him? I feel like you've met in, this is the sparse research that I did, but I feel like you've met in grand finals before, and maybe he won one and then you won one. Am I wrong about that?
No, yeah, we've been in grand finals with each other for more than a few tournaments.
Okay.
So we've definitely, and even not grand finals, sometimes we just run into each other in like winners finals or something like that. So we've definitely run into each other a fair amount of times. And honestly, he's beaten me more than I've beaten him.
Okay.
So like I still aspire to try like, you know, try to get better so I can still like fight him, because I know he's always getting better, like all the time. So I can't be slacking. So
good. That's good. It's good to have a rival. All right. So do you ever feel any nerves or pressure when you play? And how do you think about that?
Oh, I always do. Like even now to this day, like right before a tournament, like before a tournament weekend when I'm packing up, or like as I'm getting ready to go, or like on the drive there, I'm feeling it. I feel really nervous every single time. It's just like, oh my God, I'm about to play again. Like, I hope I can do well. I hope I can do my best. And it never gets old. But, however, I've dealt with it. I can deal with it way better, especially when I'm playing. I don't really feel nerves when I'm playing anymore. I don't really feel like because like, I remember like a good lesson that I learned is that, you know, it's important. Like, it's important to play. To understand the difference between playing to win versus playing not to lose. And I feel like you play a lot stronger when you want to win, or at least do your best, rather than just not wanting to lose. Because, you know, you have a different sense of direction of where you're coming from. Like, you know, and I feel like I want to be as positive as possible and learn the most that I can from it. So I don't fear losses like that, because I feel like that's where you can learn the most from. Because you don't learn, like, take it from me, I've won a tournament before, and you don't learn a whole lot from winning. You just learn that, oh, it worked, or like my thing worked, or like things worked out for me. But if you lose, you know exactly what things went wrong.
Okay.
And you know, and it's a lot easier to improve from that. And like all my biggest improvements have come from that. So, and like even to this day still, like going back to the nerves thing, like I remember like at CEOtaku and SCR, like in the spare time of waiting between matches, I just walk around the venue. I just wouldn't like really talk to people too much. I just walk around the venue. I mean, I'd talk to someone if they like, you know, said hi or something, but you know, I just walk around the venue, just try to get my mind cleared up, just so I can like, you know, just not stand still, because I'll be so anxious and restless if I am. So gotta get it out somewhere.
Do you cram? Like, do you find it? Or do you warm up, or like, you know, before you compete, you know, or do you just chill? Like, do you have any sort of rituals or anything before you about to go on your first match?
Honestly, for pools especially, not really. I just go in and play. And like for top 8s and stuff, if there's like something I'm uncertain about, like a certain like answer that I didn't lab too much, or like I see a match and I'm like, oh, how do I answer that? I'm gonna go into training mode right now. And like if there's a setup around the venue or something, like for Kyame, when I like at CEOtaku, like I was seeing him do his thing, I was like, I should learn how to answer that. So I went right to a nearby setup and I said like, please, can I training mode on this thing? And they were like, okay. And then I training mode on it, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's my answer for it. And then I went into it.
That is dope. That is great that you have the confidence and the ability to be able to do it that quickly. I'm sure most top fighting games players can. Me personally, it takes me weeks to get that stuff, you know, figure it out and get the muscle memory and all that sort of stuff. Okay. All right. So we talked about new characters already. All right, so let's talk about general fighting games. You play 2 games which have the name BlazBlue in them, but they're very different games. But you've already said that you're invested in the characters. You always have been attracted to the storylines and the characters and all that sort of stuff. So that makes more sense to me. Are there other fighting games that you're interested in now or on the horizon? Anything that you're interested in playing seriously?
I at least want to give the new Samurai Spirits a try.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like SNK a lot. Like I think their character designs are really cool, and one of the fighting games that like really taught me how to do a lot of fighting game things was KOF 13. I played that in the arcades and in consoles, and I played that game a lot. So I never like took it seriously or anything. I just training moded it a lot, and I played some people in it. But I love that game so much, and so if a KOF 15 happens, because 14 was kind of a travesty for me, because the way the game looked, it was so hideous. So if 15 were to happen, and if it were to look like Samurai Spirits, I would be absolutely in there, and I'd want to compete, and I'd want to do my best in it, because I love SNK a lot.
Okay. Yeah, Samurai Spirits does look amazing. In fact, I believe the art director, and there's a couple of people who are very high in the hierarchy in terms of the game design who were the same. They worked on Street Fighter 4. So there's already been, I'm sure you know this, there's already been visual comparisons between Street Fighter 4 and Samurai Spirits, which I wanted to ask you, talking of the different games, which one is your favorite of all time and why?
Favorite fighting game in general?
Yeah.
Well, Jesus.
I mean, like, is King of Fighters your favorite fighting game? Is BlazBlue your favorite fighting game? Is that Street Fighter on the frickin' flip phone your favorite fighting game?
Well, the flip phone one, yeah, if I played it again, I'd probably think, wow, this game is trash. And like, it is trash. I remember it very well. There was like a Block String Infinite with Fei Long. It was terrible. But like but with my favorite fighting game, it'd probably have to be like mainline BlazBlue. There's BlazBlue. There's a lot of different versions. Probably either Chrono Phantasma or Central Fiction. I love those fighting games so much, and they've just done a lot for me. And the whole BlazBlue line in general is what really got me going, and it's how I got here.
Do you think it's the game itself, the mechanics of the game, the way it plays, or do you were saying earlier you were really into the characters and the story, or is it a combination of all those things?
Really is a combination of all those things. Like, a lot of people joke about the story, about how it's bad, and honestly it kind of is, but I love the characters so much because I've been with them since the very beginning of my fighting game life. So I just can't help but love all of them, and and the stories and everything like that. But also just the mechanics and everything. I feel like it's still one of the most the highest, one of the fighting games with the highest skill ceiling. And I still think about that, and it's still I still think I have so much to improve on even now with regular BlazBlue. With Tag, the skill ceiling is not nearly as high, but there's a lot of different things to get me going and interested on that. So I can still do that. But the regular BlazBlue, I still feel like I have a lot of things to improve on.
Do you play other video games?
Mostly not really, honestly. I mostly play a lot of I mostly just play fighting games, but I play a lot of RPG. I play some RPGs too, and platformers. I really like Castlevania and games like that, which is why. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. I'm very excited for Smash Ultimate because Richter from Castlevania is in the game, and I'm gonna buy that game. I don't even know if I'm gonna play it seriously or not, but just the fact that he's in, I just don't have a choice because I love those games so much.
I think it's interesting. So loyalists of games tend to complain about crossover characters. Smash not so much because it's always been a mixture of characters. But Tekken, for instance, you see people complaining about crossover characters because maybe they bring in new mechanics or whatever. But from a marketing standpoint, you've just shown why crossover characters are so important. When Akuma was put in Tekken, I was playing Tekken for a little bit, right? Until I realized I didn't know what I was doing. But I do still want to play that game because I think it's a great game. But seeing Ryu and Ken in Smash is kind of it's pretty interesting. And as you say, for Castlevania as well, this is why they do it. There's so many people out there who get very upset about crossover characters, but god damn do they work, in terms of like getting eyeballs and interest, in terms of like, because people fall in love with characters, and if your character turns up in another game, god damn, you're gonna want to go and try it out. So I think that's interesting. A lot of people are very, very excited about Smash Ultimate. There's no doubt about that. So your life is? It sounds like your life is pretty busy. So it's made up of work, school, and fighting games. Maybe some anime. Is there anything else on the plate?
Well, I've been learning all those things, been trying to balance everything together, and as of late, I've been trying to pick up some new hobbies too, and with one of them being dancing. Actually, I've been like trying to pick up on that. I have a few friends who are into that too. So.
What type of dancing?
Oh God, probably what my friend does. I think he does hip hop dancing. Yeah.
Hip hop dancing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like like all these other kinds of things, because he does like art and fighting games and dancing. So I'm just like, I just think that's ridiculous how he can do all that stuff.
So it's like it's more coordination.
Yeah.
Iron hand coordination. Now it's iron body coordination. I guess with the dancing. Definitely wanted to ask you the question about. Is one of my final questions, I guess. Actually, I have two questions. Let's go back to the game real quick before we do this. I just want to ask you, is there a game a match out there where you go, with BBTag, right? Where you go, that was a really amazing match. And anyone who's interested in BBTag should go watch that. And it doesn't have to involve you. Could you tell us which match people should be watching?
For BBTag, right?
Yeah, for BBTag.
I'd say, man, there hasn't been too many good tournament matches for this game yet, but like, I feel like the ArcRevo Grand Finals in particular was really, really good.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that, and just feeling for my set with Kyame. A lot of people found that to be really exciting because we actually played the most amount of games two people can play in a single tournament. We played 15 games.
Oh, okay.
all in one tournament, because it was 3-2 and we played 3 different times. Like once in winners finals and twice in grand finals because he reset on me.
Wow, so that was really quite a battle.
Yeah, and I mean, people say that's what helped them get in, it helped them, or made them want to get into the game or like something like that. But it's just like, I just just being in that, I was just like, Jesus, I can't believe I was a part of something like that. It's still kind of surreal. Honestly.
Did it feel like there was a lot of adapting going on?
Yeah. In a game, in 15 games, you really get to know someone. Yeah, so yeah, I really felt like I was just going back and forth with him.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, those are definitely two worth checking out if you're interested in this game, or if you play this game. Okay. So what I did want to ask you is, do you have a quote or a mantra or a saying or a way of life that you think is important, that you think about? In difficult situations, perhaps.
So I tapped upon this earlier actually, and it was my concept on like improving from your losses. And I feel like, just in whatever tough time I'm in or any trouble I'm facing, and especially in games too, because, obviously that's happened before, and in particular, about 3 years ago, an ArcRevo qualifier that it was a team qualifier, and me and my team trained for that for several months. It was a long time, and we were really hoping to win, but we didn't. We actually got second place, and we still got like a decent amount of money for it, and it was still like, it's not like we, like our efforts went to waste in that aspect or anything, but still we were all really disappointed because we really wanted to win that, and I was especially, and but however, from that loss, I learned the most, and it's actually where I went on a streak in tournaments, I actually won I think I won 3 majors in a row from that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was for BlazBlue. It was for the tournaments I think Northwest Majors, Frosty Faustings, and another one. But it was that was a time where I felt like I learned the most, and it was where I really knew exactly what I needed to work on, because clearly what I did for all those months wasn't enough. It might have helped, but there was other things that I could do, and when I did them, I really felt I felt like my eyes were open, and I really felt like I learned a lot more efficiently and could enjoy myself a lot more that way.
Alrighty, so basically, I think what they call it is failing up, and it's having a very positive mindset to failure or losing in fighting games. And I think that's a wonderful way to actually sort of end the interview. I think it's important for you guys out there to understand that when you lose, there's a positive aspect to it, and that is that you have things to learn and get better, which is amazing. Where can people find you if they want to follow you? Do you stream? Do you tweet? Do you whatever? Where can they find you?
Well, I have a Twitter, and it's VC Jona Kim, and it's just, I don't know, that's the one that I use the most, so people can contact me on there. And I'm doing a stream I'm just starting, literally just starting a stream series where I help analyze match videos for people who requested from me. And I try to analyze things that are relevant, like the latest tournament, or a set that I found that was interesting for people to learn from. So I have that on my Twitch, which is the exact same as my Twitter. So I'm hoping that, I can get that going, and maybe I can kind of introduce maybe Japanese players to an English audience as well, which is what I'm also kind of trying to plan out.
That sounds awesome. So I'll put the links in my in the description or the pinned comment or what have you. But I wanted to say that was really interesting, and thank you for being so open. And good luck in the future. Mm-hmm. And thank you for the interview.
Yes,
and
thank you.
And we will say goodbye to these guys. Mm-hmm. See you guys.
Bye.